delighted to be here at the Startup Turkey. I've not been to this conference before, so it's all very new to me, and it's awesome. I took about 10 hours getting here yesterday from London, but I'm delighted to be here, and it's an amazing venue, of course, as we know. And I suppose the great thing about this event is, like, there's nowhere else to go, is there? We've got you. You can't go anywhere else. So I'll see you in the bar later. I'm running a conference myself in June called the Europas. You can check it out at theeuropas.com. It's invitation only. And obviously, you know TechCrunch, and we run TechCrunch Disrupt, which will be in the wintertime in Europe. So you're all very welcome to join us there. So I have a fantastic panel here today. They've all been introduced, so I won't give you... can I get the timer to working, please? If you switch the timer on, that'd be great. Then I know how much I've got left. What I want to talk about, really, is getting really big companies coming out of Turkey. Now, we're all very familiar with the big companies that have come out of Turkey, that, such as Trendyol, Marcofoni, etc. We've done very well in things like e-commerce. But the question is, where do we go next? And companies that are being produced globally now are being ranked against this famous unicorn phrase. Now, what is a unicorn? Now, TechCrunch wrote an article a few years ago, well, about, say, 1 or 2 years ago, saying that there was this new thing called the Unicorn Club. Now, it specifically said US-based technology companies. But that doesn't mean to say that the world cannot produce these billion-dollar valuation plus companies. And that's exactly what is happening in some parts of the world. The question is, can Turkey produce it? Now, we've got these great guys here who are going to be talking to us about this. Now, what do you think? Because let me turn to you, sir, first, Hasan. Now, you're very well known in this space. Everybody knows you. How many, who doesn't know here? No, don't put your hand up if you don't know this one. But you're very well, you've invested in 60 companies to the tune of $59 million, which is a reasonable amount of money. It's not the kind of money you find down the back of the couch. You must, now, why did you do that? You're very interested in seed investing and seeding the marketplace, aren't you? Is it because you think you're going to find one of these, spreading your bets, as it were, to find the unicorn of Turkey?
Well, actually, for me, it's a stupid question if Turkey will have unicorn companies one day. Of course, we will have unicorns, many, but it's just a matter of question of when. So how soon it will be? Because there's a big switch from old economy to digital economy. So everything is going to change in favor of digital. So one day, definitely, we will have many unicorn companies. As I said, the main question is how soon it will be. Well, we can do something about it, of course. We can speed up this process by, I think, rather than looking at the result of the situation, we should look at the root cause of this problem. We don't have unicorns now, and it will take some time for Turkey to have unicorns. So we should look at the starting point, the funnel of, we should look at the starting point of the funnel. We need to bring a lot of healthy startups into the funnel. How this could be? I mean, when you are talking about healthy companies, okay, we have great teams, we have great ideas, but what's missing is the money, the funds we need. So when you look at the space, the internet space, the foreign companies, the VCs, foreign VCs, don't show enough interest into that part of funding. So we need local money for this, and we don't have enough internet-rich people in this country yet, so they can reinvest, they can come back. So where the money is, it's still at the hands of old economy. So we need to attract these wealthy local people. We need to bring them to this ecosystem. We need to find a way. So I see only one way to do this. We need to bring our forces together. I mean, in the Turkish ecosystem, it's like, you know me, I know you situation. I mean, we are a handful of people who can really do this. We should combine our forces and we should attract these local wealthy people.
I'm going to take you up on that issue. How do you convince someone who's done very well out of property or shipping to invest in technology startups? This is something they don't know anything about.
I doubt they are doing well in shipping or construction or in all other old economy things. I really challenge them if they are doing. There might be ones, but it's becoming more and more difficult to make wealth in old economy. But the most convincing factor would be great exits, of course. I mean, if we show them that this is actually working and this digital economy is creating a huge wealth, they can be convinced. But we really need to educate them. We really need to get closer to them so they can understand there are big opportunities and there's also social responsibility beyond creating the value.
I would put it to Hakan, you're doing a fashion luxury startup, Lidyan, right?
Yep.
Yeah. So let me ask you a question then. I mean, do you agree with that point that you should leverage local high net worth individuals or family offices or funds to start funding the market to get to the point where you've got these big companies? Or do you think that outside VCs can be attracted? Because certainly from my perspective, as an outsider, I think if I was an outside VC, I'd think the Turkish market is, you know, a big and a growing market, it's an emerging market, but I can't necessarily get a really big exit out of here because, you know, it's not talking about global platforms. You're not creating a new Facebook or Twitter, at least as far as I can see right now. What do you think?
Actually, we have many local angel investors right now. Many people from different industries are very interested in the emerging startups. And I think we have many gazelles rather than
What do you mean?
unicorns.
I think I know what a gazelle is. What do you think a gazelle is?
Like, it's a unicorn is like supposed to be a over 1 billion valuation company, and gazelles are like over $1 million, but growing at a speedy pace. So we have many gazelles actually in Turkey, and I'm sure actually we have one unicorn, and I mean it doesn't have to be exactly $1 billion, but I think Yemek Sepeti can be considered a unicorn from Turkey.
Exactly.
And like having these unicorns, at least having one unicorn from the country would help the others to emerge and become unicorns from gazelles. So they started as a startup, we started as a startup, and we used the local angel investors. I think leveraging the local capital and also the know-how, it helped us a lot. We had the founders of Marcafoni, we had the founder of Yemek Sepeti, all as angel investors, and they made us gazelles. And after a while, after we got some traction, we got international investment very easily, and we raised 2 rounds of money, and we can become like...
How much money have you raised now?
$10 million until now, and we might raise some more. And,
but do you think that there's the right ecosystem to... I mean, obviously you get some breakouts like Yemek Sepeti, but do you think there's the right breakouts, the right ecosystem to create several really big companies?
I mean, we need some time. I think like in 10 years, I'm sure we'll say we have some unicorns, but at the moment, and it's a little bit about the culture, like people are a little bit more risk averse in Turkey. Like in our little chat before the panel, I was telling you that in the States, when we are graduating from school, like top 10 students either have their own business plans or either they have their own companies already, or they are almost about to start a new startup. But in Turkey, if you are in top 10 from a top school, you want to get to like McKinsey or Goldman Sachs, you want to be safe. So this is changing a little bit, and I think with the help of all this, like Endeavor, Tohum, Turkish and Entrepreneurship Foundation, all these organizations will help the ecosystem to evolve, and hopefully sooner or later we'll have the unicorns.
So you're saying that, I mean, we know the classic story about Mark Zuckerberg spinning up Facebook in Harvard University and going on from there. You're saying that the students today not starting early enough, and then when they leave university, they're not going into tech, they're going into a big existing company.
Yeah. And when they decide to become an entrepreneur, they're a little bit too old to be that flexible and to take those risks, I think.
Right. It's better to take risks when you're young, right?
Yep.
Karen, you're doing a Modernista. I mean, talking about verticals, so fashion obviously is a big space here in Turkey. What other verticals can we look towards that could create these big companies going forward?
What I see is the Modernista's vertical is a big vertical in the world. We're talking about 400 million addressable women, Muslim women who follows the
400
dressing.
million women
Yeah.
in the Muslim market.
Yes, and we're talking about almost 400 billion dollars of market per year. It looks like a vertical, but it's a huge vertical as far as we witness till today, and it is a great potential. What I see from your previous question is like we need people with courage. We need people who can, who doesn't afraid of skepticism. We need some crazy ideas to follow. That's how we can create a unicorn from Turkey. As a culture, we scare from the skepticism. We scare from the failure. That's why it's like we are trying to follow the same routes over and over. We do copycats. With the copycats, it's not easy to create a...
Well, you're a copycat, aren't you?
I'm not.
No?
No.
Why not?
Because we are following a different path right now. We are not making the classic fashion. When, like 5 years ago, when I was asking people, even the investors, investing in Muslim fashion, they were saying, fashion, black burqas, ha ha ha. Now they see, like after 4 or 5 years, after the looking into the search, market search, now they see that there is a big market.
Especially in Syria right now, I gather.
Oh yeah. It is not the market. It's,
Good. Let me ask you another question. So you talk about outside capital.
Yeah.
You've got some local funds. You've got Early Bird raised 100 million funding round recently. You know, so there is investors in the marketplace, right? I mean, what do you want? Do you want Sequoia to turn up? You want Union Square Ventures to turn up in Turkey? Or what sort of outside investors are you talking about when you say that you have to have outside capital?
Well, the most important part is the seed and early stage investment. I think that's where we are missing greatly. And in that part, okay, this culture of being fear of failure is really a big boundary. I think we need to educate people. This is normal. We need to educate the investors that there will be failures, there will be many failures, but the ones who reach to great success will bring the whole portfolio value back. So there is a big gap understanding. I mean, I call this digital intelligence. Okay, we are here, we know a lot of things about digital world, but the old economy people, and they have a huge wealth in their hands, don't understand about this.
But
we really need to educate them.
Angel investors and early stage investors are typically incentivized by de-risking the marketplace to some extent. And so bankruptcy laws has to be in place. So you need to be able to go bankrupt easily if you fail. You need to maybe have some kind of tax incentive for angel investing so that it de-risks that early stage. Do you see the government supporting early stage investors with tax incentives, with bankruptcy laws which are more favorable to startups, things like that? Do you see that happening?
I mean, the government is trying to do a lot of positive things, but that's certainly not enough because the end result is not enough. I mean, we don't have enough angel investors. Okay, we have angel investors taking their certificate, but they are not investing. They just like to get their certificate. But what's really the most important thing is this big gap should be shortened. And as I said, we are a handful of people in this ecosystem, and we should bring our forces. Rather than working like islands, we should act like a mainland, and we should attract these big funds to the digital economy. If you don't bring a lot of healthy startups into the funnel, the end result cannot be big unicorns. Okay, today, luckily, we may have 1 or 2 unicorns, or like Yemek Sepeti, I would call it a semi-unicorn for the time being, not a unicorn really. But we may have a few, but we should bring a lot of healthy startups into the funnel. That's how we can have a sustainable system.
Do you think accelerators can be part of the solution? So there's been a massive explosion in the number of accelerators across Europe right now. I've lost count of the numbers that there are in London at the moment. And these guys take very early stage companies, some with business models, some without, and actually spin them up through the early stage, through the funnel, and some of them can, you know, go on to raise larger amounts of money as funding, etc. What do you think about that? Is that a way of sort of addressing that kind of early stage problem to get that funnel moving?
I don't see a problem there. I think we have many great accelerators, and we have a lot of entrepreneurs in this country, and we have, I think, great teams, highly educated young people. They have high ambitions, but these accelerators should knock on the doors of wealthy local business people strongly. That's what we are not doing really. And as I said, we should come together to do this, so they can be convinced that there is something really steaming up here.
It seems more like a lot of the time, as far as I can see, it's like it often takes a new generation. So dad made a lot of money in shipping, but it's the son who works out that there's something going on in tech, or the daughter.
Yes, I'm very hopeful about this third generation, because the third generation are getting bored in their father's, uncle's business. They want something more exciting.
They want to be on TechCrunch.
They want to.
Exactly.
Yeah, they want to be on the tech side. So actually, I see a lot of interest from them, but they need to convince their fathers, their uncles, to raise some money, some family funds here. But I see more and more interest from them.
What about exits? Let's talk about exits. So are you guys building your e-commerce businesses to exit, or are you building them to become cash-generating companies? What are you going to be doing?
Exit.
You want to exit?
I'm not making it up, making it for my children. It's, if it's profit, if it gets to a certain valuation.
Have you got any kids? Do you got any children?
Hopefully.
Not yet. Yes.
Not yet.
One day.
Yeah, one day.
Okay.
But
we can talk about your family planning later. But are you? What I want to know is though, you want to build this into a big company, right? But can you scale from here? Where can you go from Turkey? Can you scale outside of Turkey? What can you do?
Yeah, you can scale. Actually, we started as a jewelry vertical. Then we scaled it. We expanded it into new categories. It was a category expansion. We can make a regional expansion and get into other countries, because especially about jewelry, many international countries, the folks there are interested about Turkey. And we have a celebrity endorsed model, and Turkish celebrities are very popular in Middle East and like Eastern Europe. So our model can work over there too. But first we have to collect the low-hanging fruits here. So then we can expand internationally. But as I said, at any moment in the growth phase, I would sell the company if someone pays 1 cent more than it's worth. So I think we should learn how to sell.
What about Modernista? Do you think that you can scale outside of Turkey internationally?
Absolutely. We are already doing it right now. We are exporting to 57 countries. 40% of our sales is international. And the answer to your question is, are we building it for an exit? For me, exit is not the destination. For me, to being a global brand is my destination. To be global, like Macy's, like
Right.
Marks and Spencer, to be everywhere, to known with amongst Muslim women throughout the industry. Is
So
my
you want to be like a really enormous player in the space.
hopefully.
But is that attractive an exit? Who could acquire your companies? Who would acquire your companies?
I can tell. I mean, an international player who wants to
You don't know
enter
who's
to-
going to acquire you?
No, I have some
How
target.
can you be a unicorn then?
we have some target buyers, but if I tell them now, then they might get in.
Well, let's see. Who
Exactly.
would like to buy these companies? Anyone? No? Any takers? You.
Thank you.
You. How much money have you got?
And the next question.
She'll have to chat, right? Anyone? Do any more takers? Okay, well, I'm kidding around.
Come on,
But,
guys.
But there are many international e-commerce companies who wants to enter the Turkish market,
Yeah.
so they might prefer acquiring one.
Okay, look, I'm going to look. I'm going to.
The stock exchange is
I
also-
don't think. I really think that e-commerce is all very well, but if you look at the unicorns that have been identified internationally, they are platform plays. They're SaaS companies. They're massive consumer internet companies like Facebook, Twitter, etc. These are the big companies. They're not e-commerce companies as such. And that's my problem with the concept of e-commerce companies becoming unicorns. They don't. Snapchat is not an e-commerce company. It's worth about $14 to $15 billion right now. So it's like a triple unicorn or something. But it's. But that's my point, and that's what I want to put to you actually.
Okay.
Is that platform plays are where you get the really big companies, not so much in e-commerce, because obviously they can become big companies in their own right, and fair enough, Amazon, etc. But I'm talking about like the big platform players. Where are they going to come from here in Turkey?
Yes, that part of the story is not that promising
Yes.
because, well, we may have very good SaaS companies. Definitely, we have great engineers in this country, and they can scale their business by creating revenues. They can they can.
Can you name me any coming out of Turkey right now that are SaaS platforms that?
Well,
Can
for
scale
example,
internationally?
the one is Insider is one of the investments I made. They have a global vision, just to give you an example. But in a social media side, I mean, like if we are going to have a Facebook or Twitter, that part is much more difficult because to create a social media platform, you need really persistent investors making investments for 5 years, 7 years, without making any revenues, profits. So the two main component is missing to create value from social media. For example, the one is, as I said, the investors, and the second, you need to have experienced teams to have such a to maintain such a great business globally. That part is a little bit more difficult, so I expect we can have unicorns from other businesses combining operational side and technology together, and I think e-commerce is the low-hanging fruit in Turkey because Turkey has a big manufacturing base. That's where we should focus more.
What about games? Because Peak Games has done pretty well, hasn't it, so far? For instance. What about the game space? I mean, a lot of people talk about it as being a pretty hits-driven business, and we've seen the rise of, Candy Crush Saga, etc., which, King.com basically floated on the basis of one game. Can you get big companies coming out of the gaming space, for instance?
That's not my expert area. This question should go to Hakan, I think.
Who would like to take that up then, on the games?
Yeah, Peak Games is around 20 million unique users are playing its games today, and I think it can be one of the unicorns in the coming years. And I definitely agree that e-commerce companies are like, it takes years. I mean, you can become maybe Amazon, but I mean, it's not the definition of unicorn. So it should be a innovative idea. It should be some like Snapchat, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, whatever. Those should be considered unicorn. But again, like the character of our population, we are risk averse. Our investors are also risk averse. They don't want to invest in an innovative idea. They say, if you have an innovative idea, you should go to Silicon Valley and try it there, and then it becomes a US-based company. So I think, I mean, I don't consider Lydiana, I mean, I don't think it's going to be a unicorn. It can be like $100 million, but it wouldn't be a $1 billion company. So, but maybe gaming could be one of the areas.
Let's run a scenario. It's 2015. Next year, a young man and his sister. He's the technical genius. She's the marketing genius. She could be the technical genius. Let's switch it around. Good point. She's the technical genius. She's the CTO, and he's the marketing genius. And you're absolutely right. I'm sorry about that. And in a basement in Istanbul, they come up with an incredible platform, which takes the world by storm. Let's call it, well, I'll think of a name in a second. Magna or something, magna.com or something. And it goes incredible. It becomes bigger than Snapchat overnight. And they go to local VC. Early bird gets in early with a local round. They get you as an angel. Yeah, early bird as a VC. They get suddenly they get all sorts of interest from global venture capital. And when they get to a point, of course, money just comes in on planes when they get to a certain point. A year later, they're booking 1 billion users. What's to stop them just flipping to Silicon Valley rather than staying in Istanbul?
I think they should go to Silicon Valley after a certain point because the investors are not here who are going to support them for so many years. So they better go to Silicon Valley after a certain point. I mean, that's my answer to that because the highly experienced teams are there, and most importantly, the money is there because you need money for so many years, and these investors are very patient. They can wait for so many years. They have a lot of money, they can wait. But here, I mean, even for low-hanging fruits, they do not invest enough. So why should they spend their time here? They should go to Silicon Valley.
There was no investor that could see that that Magna.com could become this global, Snapchat killer, and didn't have the vision. There was nobody here that saw that.
No, it can start from here, but it cannot grow here. You need money for so many years, and the money is not here.
Do you agree?
He has some money.
Yes, I agree. It's not a good thing for Turkey, but I agree.
So this, of course, is a different scenario, and we're talking about something that's quite a rare event. Although there was an interesting event, Cut the Rope was a game that came out of Moscow. Two brothers coded it up in a basement in Moscow, and that became an incredible, it was basically as big as Angry Birds at one point, but of course games are a different kind of a scenario. What about, finally, what's the future? What does the future hold? You're obviously optimistic in certain verticals like e-commerce, etc. You think that there's not enough outside investment, that you've got to grow the inside investment. How are you going to make this happen? Are you going to go to all these people and say, right, open up your wallets and let's get going, let's create more of a funnel, or are you going to do something else? What are you going to do to help create the ecosystem? Just
a point I would like to make. I just don't believe Twitter, next Twitter or Facebook will grow here in this lands. It may start here, but it will grow in the US. But for gaming, in gaming area, you can, for example, start making revenues at the beginning if you have a great product, really. So let's make a differentiation between gaming and social media. And for SaaS, as I said, it can start here and it can grow here. But I think what's most important also, it hasn't started yet. I talked about local wealthy people, but also the institutional VCs. We don't have institutional, we have a lot of telco companies in Turkey, we have a lot of banks. I mean, we are a lot of families close to the technology, and these family funds are not there, or institutional funds are not there. So we should also look at that side to trigger the fundraising.
And you're going to build a global company here from Turkey?
Inshallah.
Inshallah, God willing, exactly. And you, sir?
After Lidiana.
Yeah, you're going to take turns. Okay, great. Thanks very much, gentlemen. I appreciate your help. Thanks for that.